Hello, my name is Robbie Sco, and in this video we'll talk about how to combine chord and melody sample packs with a little music theory to breathe some life into your musical creations. And today we'll take a look at the beat I made using Sanjay C's great new Aurora sample pack. So let's throw on some Aurora lights and get into it. Okay, so when you first check out his sample pack, you'll see that it comes with waves and MIDIs, right? So let's check out these inspiration waves. A lot of great stuff in here. You see it has a nice combination of arpeggios, melodies, and chord progressions, both dry and processed, which is really cool. And the first one I was really drawn to was this one, which he has marked down at 105 beats per minute. So this is what it sounds like at that tempo. Yeah, nice, lush, full sound recorded with one of his great synths he has. So it's got a nice sound. I actually tried to replicate that sound with a few other synths and couldn't quite get there. So I did want to keep that sound in addition to some other pads. Right, so let's talk about the chords that Sanjay is using in his sample. So again, it sounds like this. All right, so there it starts on an A minor 7 chord to a D minor 7, then it walks up to E minor 7, F major with an F on top, and then that top note comes down to E for like a F major 7 sound, and back up to F, back to D minor 7. So those are the main chords, and I like the sound of the way his pad sounds with that A minor 7. That was really cool. But instead of using that as an A minor 7, I changed the bass note to an F, which then makes those notes of the A minor 7 chord actually the 2, 3, 5, and 7, or the 9, 3, 5, and 7 of F major, right? So then I'd start off my chorus progression as an F major 9, then down to the D minor 7 like Sanjay did. But then on his E minor 7, I actually had an A in the bass, making this a A9 sus chord. Right, it was essentially, very similar sound to like just the A sus, right, 1, 4, 5, but just adding in the 7 and the 9. And then that resolved nicely down to the A9, right, the top note D coming down to C sharp, 4 going to 3, making that progression for my chorus. And then in context with the pad instruments, so I used his pad instrument transposed as needed. So let's check out how that works. So here's how it sounds. Right, so that first one is the A minor 7, and that I was able to use as is. Didn't need to transpose it, but I was just kind of rethinking it, reharmonizing, right? So that instead of thinking of it as an A minor 7, I have the bass doing an F, so that notes of the A minor 7 become notes of the F major 7. And then for the D minor 7, I did use that. Yeah, I changed the rhythm here a little bit, so it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and up. Right, and you can see where that of 4 comes in, kind of written in on the grid. I'm going to change this grid to 16th note view. And you can see, yep, right here, they call it 25.4.4 for 25th measure, 4th beat for the 16th note. That's how you get that funky syncopation there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and up. And on that, yeah, D minor, which is root position D minor 7 chord, D, F, A, C, followed by the E minor. I even have written in, I recommend this too, it might help you out writing in kind of the notation of the chords within some of the samples you're chopping up. So I wrote in here E minor used as 5, 7, 9, 11 of A9 sus, or more simply put, the E minor played up top with the A and the bass makes a A9 sus sound. Now, to get an A major sound was a little trickier, right? Because he even labels his sample here with these chords as an A minor chord sample, so there's no A major in it. But I was able to get that A major sound by taking his F major and just transposing that up 4 semitones up to A. That's why in isolation, maybe it sounds a little wonky because it's going, 2 whole steps away from its original point. But then when you add the other pads in with it, yeah, it works, and you still get the nice sound from his synth, which is really cool. So then altogether, we have that F major 9. Excellent. And I use that same sample for the verse. So here, sticking with the pads on the verse, here you have... All right, so right here, that's just going from F major 7 down to E minor 7. And I have a nice little swoop up with the transposition here to get this sound. I just kind of double clicked on here, envelopes, clip, transposition, and you can see right here that I just had that little glide up to give that kind of like gliding type shape to it. And then, all right, so I just use that for the progression there. And then let's talk about the bass that kind of brings this together. So over this, I first tried to use MIDI bass and wasn't quite digging the sound. I was trying out this cool synth, or this cool virtual instrument called Bass Fingers, and I got a sound. It sounded like this. Which was nearly there, but I thought it sounded a little fake. A little faker than I wanted, so I just played it on the bass. And again, I'm using the main chords going around there. It's like the chords in here. Got a nice little chart. Woo! Or I'll put it up on the screen too. But it's it goes F to D. So I just kind of ride from that F octave, and that leads down to the D. Now here that we have our D here, and normally you can get to an octave on the bass by going down 2 strings and over 2 frets, but not much so when you're on the D string. Right, so I'm on the D string, so I have to kind of hop up to the 7th fret on the G string to get that octave over there. So that first little part, just kind of moving around the scale there. And then for the next line where you have the A9 sus, I'm actually teasing a little bit of the minor third, which is interesting. So, and then to the major third. Yeah, so then in context, you can check that out. So that is that's with the MIDI bass, and then played with the real bass. Here's the difference. And see that we added in the drums, and now I actually do have like a MIDI drum kit over here, but unfortunately it gets a lot of double triggers going on, even if I mess with the module a lot. So if anyone has any tips for kind of tweaking electric drum modules, that'd be awesome. So for this one, I didn't play out the drums, though I have in the past, and had some issues with the electronics. So I did use actually these great samples from Nate Smith to get the drums, and it sounds really nice. Kind of tweaked it up to match. So here's what it sounds like on the chorus. And then we have over to the verse, we have kind of breaks down a little bit. Yeah, so nice, and leaving space there with the hits, and give some room, a little bit of room for the bass. So again, the main progression, you have F major 7 to E minor 7, and then kind of outlining that on the bass. Instead of the F down here, often found on the 1st fret of the E string, we grab that F that's up here on the 8th fret of the A string. All right, and we're doing some simple octaves. So we go F, F, E, E, right? Because you have the open E as well as the E on the 7th fret of the A string, right? So it starts, and you have this fun little part that's kind of tweaking with the flat 7th root and flat 3rd of E minor, right? So E minor is E, G, B, D, right? So you're just kind of playing with E, D, E, G, all with just one pluck, because it gets that fun kind of slide motion. Similarly, at the end of that, you kind of, since there's that space, you let the bass fill it up with a little fill there. So I think I did. So I'm not plucking everything there. We're doing a number of hammer-ons and pull-offs to get that. But yeah, just kind of going along with like the stabs from the Sanjay chords that I got there. So we got. Yeah, so that makes for the fun verse part. And it sounds like this together. All right, and this is all before we talk about melody. So the melody on the pre-chorus, I actually used a different one of his melodies. So that was this F major melody Solitude, which sounds like this, which actually starts on the and of 1. But instead of starting it on the end of 1, I actually started it on the downbeat and then added more variations towards the end. So let me turn on my lead instrument. I use this great synth from Virtual Riot, right? Virtual Riot synth preset. I really like this sound. And now let's hear the melody on that pre-chorus. It's kind of like a build. And along with the melody there, to accompany it, I used this chord progression, right? So on that pre-chorus, I was doing just A minor 7. And let me switch over to the piano. All right, and so to accompany that pre-chorus melody, I used this chord progression: A minor 7, F major 7, and I went up to B flat major, to G. All right, just a couple little lines there on the piano. That's all kind of stemming from the G major pentatonic scale, which is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 within any given major scale. All right, and then the second half, you start pretty similarly. You just go A minor to F major 7 to B flat major 7, and then instead of to G major, we go to G9, and then we have a nice little pickup into the chorus, just the notes D and E, making that pre-chorus. Yeah, so that DE, that brings us to that chorus progression. But yeah, one note that the reason for that pickup measure to kind of help with that transition is because if you try to just go from G7 to F, right? This is just G9 to F, right? Because G7 and G9 function similarly, right? That G7 often would work at a 5 chord. So if G is the 5, its 1 would be C, of course, right? Right? That wants to go back there. So when you play G7 and then play F, it doesn't really work too much as far as a movement point. That's why you kind of incorporate this D. Because then instead of just having that G7 to lean on to transition, you have that G7 plus the movement D, E, and then bringing us to F major, add 9. So one other way that, if you wanted to get fancy with it, that DE could also be the top of this sus chord that kind of helps with transitioning. And I just love this chord. It has a great sound, the 9 sus. So you could, I don't necessarily do it in this song, but you could kind of think of it like. like that top note going. So that would be like A9 sus, B9 sus. All right, yeah, so those are the chords for the pre-chorus. And then on top of the verse with the piano, also just added in some hits there, right? So you just have like just a root position, right? F major 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. E minor 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. And then for the melody, right? So the melody on the pre-chorus we talked about came from Sanjay C's melody sample. And then for the chorus, kind of added in a separate melody, which sounds like this. And one of the aspects of that chorus that gives it some specific motion is that the third measure, we have that chord A9 sus, but even though it's a dominant 9, right, it typically has 1, 4, 7, 9 in there, we decided to use the C in the melody there, right? Decided to use that minor third. So that gives it like a minor sound for the first little bit, and then the major third for this fourth measure, which has the A dominant 9. Right, so you hear a little bit, particularly in the second chorus, kind of have some variation on that chorus melody. So it kind of starts all within that world. All right, yeah, so at the end there, measure 7, I guess you'd say, of this chorus, you have kind of moving around within that A minor. Right, so at first it starts kind of staying right within an A minor sound and then going to the A major, kind of corresponding with like the sus sound going to the major or the dominant sound with the A9, right? So yeah, and of course with a monophonic synth, you get that nice glide setting. So I was just holding down G and then could play A on and off to get that quick note G and A. All right, so there's the melody for that. And then at the beginning and end of the song, I had this nice kind of filtery, wavy spot kind of achieved with a lot of auto filters, taking the frequency down. And I was actually automating them live a little bit, just kind of going into the auto filter built in within Ableton and recording just my adjustment of that with the mouse. And you can also do that with faders, knobs, or anything like that. But here's what it sounds like. Right, so you can see down here, not only in the display for the auto filter, that you have the frequency moving around in the different XY pad, but also you have if you go into the automation settings within arrangement view, and we can select the auto filter and then go to the frequency, you can have that moving up and down, right? So I'll just give you another example of how you could record that in. So you're gonna make sure this right here, this automation arm is on. That allows you to record that instrument. I'm going to make sure nothing else is armed. And now let's just go ahead and I'm going to hit record. I'm going to be recording the automation of this filter on this drum. Recorded the frequency and resonance going on with that filter there for the drums. That's pretty cool. So we had that happening at the beginning, then at the end, like a similar feel with some piano playing. right, and so you can see that was fun to just kind of grab that the auto filter with the piano and the drums to kind of get that wavy feel that I think matched nicely with this Arpenpad preset from Solina. All right, so I also wanted to mention the extra synths that I added to kind of coincide with Sanjay C's audio sample. So his sample by itself in the chorus sounded like this, kind of like the main inspiration that started this. And I tried to achieve a sound like that with my presets and didn't quickly get one. So I decided to continue to have his sample as well as using the MIDI. So I used the MIDI corresponding from his sample. So that's awesome about this pack too, right? It's not just audio. I went into the MIDI files and then you can just kind of grab the corresponding MIDI that went with it. And I used that in this one pad here, pad Deep Blue. And this is from within my complete control, and this, so you can kind of search within here. So check it out. I just searched for types, synth pad, characters, clean, and then I found this great one, Deep Blue. It's a Massive X preset. Sounds like this. Yeah, I like that it has the top end stringy type sound, so you can kind of hear that going on. Oh no, alarm! Time for work. No. And then the other sound I combine that with is this one. This is from Arturia Solina, and it is, the preset's called Arpenpad. It's a pretty cool sound. Yeah, so I actually just have Sanjay sample in there, which is mainly whole notes and half notes, but it's the preset itself that has that arpeggiation built into it, which I really like. Yeah, and I even at the end of the first chorus, I have that kind of build up and just kind of bring the pitch up a little bit like before to have that kind of effect like this. Yeah, so I think it's a really fun one. And yeah, here we go. Solina Arpenpad. Again, within the world of Native Instruments Complete Control, which is just a really great way to kind of search through and get different keyboard sounds. All right, then one last thing just on the chorus to give it a little pumping motion. Just a super quick way to get some of it. Not even sidechaining anything really. I just have on this pads group the effect from Waves called the one knob pumper. Very simple, just for a quick pulsation. It's it'll behoove you to do some actual sidechain compression to get more specific with it. But this is a nice way to get just some quick pumping action. All right, see those last little bits twinkling away at the end? That comes from the classic crystallizer. Love this. So on a return send, I have the Soundtoys crystallizer, original crystals, and just send a little bit of the pads to that to get that extra little twinkle, which I really like. All right, thank you for watching, and thank you to Sanjay C for making this great sample pack. His amazing channel and sample pack will be linked below. Definitely check those out. He has loads of great tutorials. And if you're interested in incorporating playing instruments with Ableton, consider subscribing to this, my Robbie Sco channel, for a mix of music theory, live looping, producing, and performing. Hope to see you around. Take care.